Here with Greg Souders at Standard Jiu-Jitsu. Greg, I feel like you've kind of become the most controversial coach in Jiu-Jitsu thanks to this ecological method. I want to ask you, because I feel like there might be some misconceptions around it,
Sure.
just if you can help me figure out some of this stuff is fact or if some of this stuff is fiction.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Number one, fact or fiction? You hate drilling.
Fact.
Fact? Why do you hate drilling?
Because it's ineffective training method. It's ineffective training intervention.
When did you start to realize that it was like an ineffective training intervention?
While I was doing it, I was heavily invested in the drilling process because I was told that it is the way we get good. And I probably drilled more than any two people you can name. And it didn't work that way for me. So once I found another method that didn't rely on decoupled training interventions or static drilling, I found that not only did my skills grow faster, but the skills of my students grew faster as well.
What's a training intervention?
So imagine that we train to create changes in an athlete for performance or for a day that's really important. A coach intervenes in that process. So let's say an hour practice structure is an intervention, it's a training intervention. Strength conditioning, like bench pressing, is a training intervention. It intervenes in the natural path of the athlete to create a meaningful change. And so everything that a coach gets their student to do could be considered a training intervention.
Greg, fact or fiction? CLA is situational sparring.
I don't know if I can answer that hard in either direction because situational sparring, depending on how you orient it, could be CLA or could not be CLA. So the constraints-led approach is just about manipulating the constraints present in a given system. So if your situational sparring session, if we use it to manipulate the constraints present in that given system, then it is CLA. If we're not, it isn't.
So it could be, but it's not necessarily.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Next. Fact or fiction? All CLA is eco, and all eco is CLA.
Again, another hard one is these hard lines that don't really exist. I mean, maybe someone who's more deep in the literature could answer that more clearly than I could. But
what I'm trying to get at is, are CLA and eco the same?
Oh, gotcha. So the ecological approach is the philosophy that informs the constraint-led approach. So it should be fact that if you're using a constraints-led approach, it's connected to the philosophy of an ecological approach.
Gotcha. Fact or fiction? You don't coach, you just let people coach themselves.
Fiction. So even in the last 5 years, I've designed every single practice that DeAndre has ever engaged in. So it was designed based on the relationship he and I share based on the intended goals for the practice. It's the most involved thing I've ever done. When I used to just teach moves, when I used to just show techniques, that's not coaching. I thought it was, but it isn't. When I stepped into the real coaching space, I realized how in-depth you have to go with each athlete to really get the best out of them. And so the constraints-led approach is a way we can maximize that relationship. And it is, I'm fully invested.
Fact or fiction? An athlete usually needs to come from a drilling background to be successful with CLA.
Fiction. I have an entire room full of people that have never drilled, literally never drilled. My up-and-coming star, Noah Schaffner, has never drilled a day in his life. He has no grappling experience prior to coming here. And within 4 to 5 years, he's coming up on his 5-year anniversary. He's a phenomenal grappler. So, even though that's one specific example, I've got many examples here in my room of people who can grapple effectively without ever having drilled a move.
Fact or fiction? CLA does not work for every position. Eventually, a coach does need to get involved for certain situations.
Fiction. There's nothing special about any given positions not being too complex or too simple or whatever. Even if a coach jumps in and tells an athlete something specific or explicit about what they want them to do, that's a constraint. It's just an informational constraint. So constraints are the only things that coaches have to manipulate. So the constraints-led approach is just a way we maximize and optimize our manipulations of the constraints present in a given system.
Fact or fiction? Grapplers will develop bad habits without precise instruction.
Fiction. Grapplers will develop bad habits, period. It doesn't matter what method you use. Attractors or habits are real. They form whether we like it or not. Our job as coaches is to recognize when they're happening, recognize if they're maladaptive or not, and then do something about them either way.
Fact or fiction? CLA is better for competitive athletes rather than hobbyists.
Fiction to the max. The constraints-led approach is actually a very powerful tool for helping adaptive athletes, aging athletes, athletes with limitations. It basically gives the coach a toolbox that allows them to adapt to the athlete in front of them and not teach them in this stereotypical way. So yeah, no, deeply fiction.
Fact or fiction? CLA works best for certain personality types and doesn't work for other personality types.
Fiction. Everything in a given system that affects the athlete and their behavior is a constraint. So one athlete might like a coach to say nothing to them and just give them the game and say go practice. Another athlete might want the coach to explain a little bit more before they go practice. Either way, these are both examples of how we can use a constraints-led approach specific to each athlete to get the best out of them.
Awesome. Greg, if people want to follow you guys, where can they find you online?
You can follow us at Standard Jiu-Jitsu on IG or at GD Souders. If anybody wants to reach out to me, please reach out to me on IG at GD Souders.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Yes, thank you, sir.